Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast, recording live from Vive in Los Angeles. Today, I have the privilege of hosting Jason Rose on the podcast. He's the CEO and board member of Clearsense. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Saul. Appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. How has the conference been?
I think it's been fantastic. It's been frenetic. There has been great conversations. I just love the way Chime and Vibe put this together. We had focus group on Sunday. I was, as you know, on stage yesterday as a speaker, and just the conversations, the dinner conversations have been fantastic. So I've been really excited about this conference this year.
That's great. Sounds like you guys have made the most out of it.
Yeah, we have. It's been fantastic. I feel bad for some of those in the Northeast who weren't able to make it, but it's been fantastic.
That's great, Jason. Great to hear. So you were on stage, as you mentioned, with Trinity Health, which the project is approaching $100 million in hard cost savings. Why has application decommissioning become such a powerful financial strategy?
Well, if you look at a Gartner survey that was published in September, October of last year, it was a robust survey, and there were a couple questions that are salient to your question here. One question was, has your agenda changed since January 1 of 2025? This is September of 25. And you think health systems, they're big cruise ships. They're not speedboats.
Yeah.
They're moving methodically and intentionally. 92% of the health system CIOs said in the 8 months after the year had started that my agenda has materially changed for the next several years since January 1, which was like an astounding number. Second question was, what is your number one most important area that you are now focused on as your highest priority? And number one is cost optimization. So 59% of the health system CIOs say that my number one most important thing is how do I drive cost takeout? And so if you think about the OB3 $1 trillion funding cuts, which are going to start happening after the midterm elections in 27, and you think about some of the inflation issues that we have, and you pile on top of that all the question marks on AI and innovation and how do you get funding for this. Cost optimization is so important today, and has created this, I think, financial tsunami with health systems of how are they going to deal with these problems. And it's probably the biggest economic change since before the Affordable Care Act.
So it's just dramatic. There's a lot of pressure on these health systems. Margins are razor thin, and or negative, and they have to find the lever, and that lever is decommissioning.
Yeah. So I have this thesis is that it's just an untapped lever. Application decommissioning has been around for decades in any industry, not just healthcare. So if you haven't been if you haven't been archiving and decommissioning your tools, then you're really bloated. The average health system is 30-40% bloated. So it's unusual to not have anything in place. I think what's unique and different is that with all the financial pressures is to go back to basics and say, how do I take more costs out faster? It's actually sitting right underneath their nose, a huge financial lever. You've got mergers, acquisitions, Epic rollouts, Workday rollouts, movement, migration to the cloud, repatriation back from the cloud on-prem. All these things create redundancies, zombie apps, and duplicative issues that are just costs. And so just the last thing on that is, so Gartner put out an article in, I think it was October last year. It was called the Application Undertaker. This is not a healthcare article. This is a tech article. And the Application Undertaker said that organizations globally are really good at putting in a new technology. So in our world, it's going to be the Epics and the Workdays of the world. They're really good at that. What they're terrible at is actually dedicating a team that focuses on taking the tech debt out. And this is about driving technical debt out faster and driving out permanent cost savings.
Well, and so on stage, you and Trinity had a conversation. What is it that they're doing different? What are you guys doing different together to get the type of results in the accelerated way that you're chatting about?
Yeah, and it was a great panel. I got lots of great feedback on it because it's remarkable and different. So Gartner actually unsolicited wrote a case study on this Singularity program with Trinity and Clearsense as the blueprint of how you should do application rationalization decommissioning. So if you read the article, it's 800 applications, nearly $100 million of cost takeout. It'll be there this year. And it's because it's not treated as a project. It's treated as going back to my IT management days, it's a program, which is a series of projects. So, in fact, 800 projects and counting. And so Trinity is the top 5 largest health system in the United States. And I think it's around $26 billion, 7,400 applications when we got there, 92 hospitals. And so we've taken out about 15% of that application stack. And that's how you arrive at software licensing costs is $100 million. And that does not count TSA, does not count infrastructure and things of that nature, which are above and beyond that, or the cybersecurity risk and security remediation costs. Keep piling that on. And so what makes them different is, number one, is they count that. They quantify that every month, exactly how much cost takeout there is. They publicize that both internally to show momentum, and they also publish that to their board because it's such an important area of direction and intention for their company. But from a programmatical perspective, it starts at procurement at the top. Their sourcing team is reviewing contracts. They're looking ahead, months, years ahead. These are the contracts we need to renegotiate. We need to terminate. We put it on the conveyor belt. The alignment and strategic governance that they started with using how Epic does it, because they've done that really well. And we have waves of applications, dozens or hundreds of applications that come in waves throughout the course of the year. And then those are prioritized: clinical, cyber, financial, operational, procurement. That these are the next wave. They get prioritized. They move it down the assembly line to acquisition of the data. Both Trinity and Clearsense pull the data directly from the vendor source disparate system of the hundreds of apps. We put it in our format in the timing that we need, and then we curate the data. We translate it. If it's clinical, we put into a longitudinal medical record of within Epic's patient chart. John Smith, you click on the button if you're the clinician or an HIM, pulls up all the Clearsense patient match EMPI data across potentially dozens or hundreds of different disparate systems. And then you decommission it after that, which is the final nail in the coffin of any app. And so it is a program delivery, and it is a very large intentional governance program that is executed perfectly. And that is why it's been such a huge success. And we're always making it better.
That's great. And this is the word that you guys used on stage was the assembly line. What you just described is
Think about a car. You got build the parts. You got to put the parts on the assembly line. You got to assemble the parts. Something goes wrong, you push the button. I'll give you an example. So what goes wrong with some organizations is that there's not enough staff from the health system to do the data extraction, or they didn't do it in the format that would be easy for the archiving vendor to actually put it into their format to actually curate it and translate it. All these things, you have to hit the red button, it goes back up the conveyor line. I have contracts that I get this a lot, contracts that I only have like a half a dozen contracts I can actually eliminate this year. Okay, well, have you had a legal team look at that? Have you looked a year in advance? So you're planning a year in advance to look at change management, to look at vendor termination, things of that nature. So Mike Prokic, who's the Chief IT Strategy Officer at Trinity, made a really great comment yesterday. And the question was, what's the hardest part about this program? And he said, he quoted a song from, I think, the 80s or 90s. The hardest part the hardest part of a relationship
yeah.
is breaking up and getting my stuff back.
Yeah. Getting your stuff.
Yeah, and so we're
I remember
we're shutting down several dozen applications a quarter. So if you look at other organizations, it's in 2 years you might do a few dozen. We're doing that per quarter, and we've been doing that for 6 years. And of course, Trinity's not the only organization we work with, but it is absolutely the prototype of how it should be done. It is. That's why we were invited to speak about it, and it's so important for healthcare today.
Yeah, so for everybody, watching and listening to this, just know that there is a pathway to do it faster. What was done in the past actually could be done faster now. For leaders watching this conversation, the nearly 100 million in OpEx takeout, how should they think about the financial model, especially what you guys said, using CapEx to drive long-term OpEx?
Yeah, it's such an important part, and I'll turn to the camera here, as I did in the panel interview, is that it's so important to have your financial organization, whether it's the embedded CFO within your IT team or you're pulling in the financial leaders within the IT program to build a case study. Because the reality is, from a gap principle, if you look at each of these pieces and parts I just described, it's an operating budget. If you look at it as a programmatic implementation, I'm shutting down an application, I'm putting data into a new application with a new feature and use case that didn't exist before. It fits everything there is for Gap. We've covered this with I think 3 of the 4 top audit firms. They all agree, and almost all or most of our clients operate in this way. Now, obviously, the subscription is going to be an operating expense. I'm not talking about the end use case of accessing the data on our platform. I'm talking about the implementation that got us there. In that, typically, you're doing a one-time capital budget expense per application. Is each of those are a separate implementation. Programmatically, it's capital budget, and usually that's going to be a lot more fungible and accessible than it is to drive this pull operating costs out to pay for these programs. And these programs pay for themselves in weeks or months. This is a pay, you do a wave and pays for the next wave, pays for the next wave. This is not a long-term process of returning on investment. Another thing that Mike Prokic said, was how this is a permanent program, not a project. This is a permanent program that will outlast all of us on the stage, where Nick O'Connor, their CTO, was also with us. This will outlast all of us because it is a permanent feature of how you should be running your technology organization.
Yeah, it becomes part of the operating system, right?
Absolutely.
It stays there.
It's the DNA of how you should run. And really any organization, even if it's not healthcare, but particularly healthcare. There was I'll shout out to Chime. They had an innovation summit at a health system in the summer. And the CEO was on stage and he welcomed everyone there. And he said, how many people here are from a single point solution vendor, and no one raised their hand. And he said, well, good. Anyone who is, please leave your business card at the podium when we're done. And I'm going to have my IT team terminate access to any emails you might be trying to send to us. You'll be put into junk mail.
Oh, man.
And so we need to drive cost takeout, and we need consolidation enterprise operating model, in your words, Saul.
Yeah, that's great, Jason. Really great. Well, congratulations for the success that you guys have had, and this is why we do these things, to be able to share, the opportunities that are out there to make the most out of these tough times. And so, as this work continues to accelerate, Jason, to scale, what role does AI play in all of it?
Yeah, and I'll quote Nick O'Connor, CTO at Trinity, yesterday. So if you think about all this data, petabytes and petabytes of this massive amount of data, and it is the history of the health system and all the patients. And so there's so much you can do with the data now that it's been unified, it's patient matched, and it's not just EHR and clinical data. I'm talking about operational, financial data, HR data. When you have that all in one data lake, you can put different tools, whether it be visualization data or AI data on top of that. So I think in my world is that we are a software development vendor. So we are not a IT body shop, which is a really important distinction. And so we drive value as fast as possible. In my ideal state, we would do what's called a day one archive. We're not there yet, but this is where we're headed. Okay. Where you want to archive Athena, ECW, NextGen, Kronos, whatever. Hit the RFID tag, boom, it's been archived next day. And so so that's what we are driving towards. That we are not looking to milk our customers for months and months and years of delaying the value. We want to hit it as fast as possible, and we're putting in technologies like AI on the back end to drive towards that. And so I'm a big believer in marketing your mission. And so, and this is marketing our mission. We want to drive as fast value as possible. And we will figure out, we're a for-profit company, we'll figure out how to make money on what I'm describing, but we're putting a ton of investment into how we can drive more advancement in automation into the value stream and the value proposition. That's on the front end. The back end, that's on the back end. On the front end, we think that there's a lot of opportunity for end user experience to leverage the mass amount of data and put it up to the point of care with them using AI that doesn't require another click.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Look, super exciting vision that you've painted for us here. Outstanding work that you guys have done already. If you wanted to give people a call to action as we wrap up here, what would you leave them with? And where can they reach out to you and the company to learn more?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me directly, jrose@clearsense.com. Of course, I will respond to your email. But here's what I've been telling folks for the course of the last year and a half, especially since OB3 came out, is just come talk to us. We'll do it in a matter of weeks. We'll give you a business case. We're going to meet with your financial team. We're going to meet with your IT organization. We have a recipe that can give you in a matter of a few weeks the rough order magnitude in terms of cost takeout. It's going to be a lot bigger than you thought it was. There's $50,000, $100,000 apps that your clinical organization are concerned about in terms of having clinical disruption. It makes sense on a $50,000, $100,000 that you don't want to do disruption. But when you're talking about you have dozens or hundreds of those, it ends up being millions of dollars. It all of a sudden becomes a larger change management need. And it makes sense from a financial standpoint too. So it's so important to look at the entire picture from financial and from a clinical, quantitative and qualitative perspective. And in a matter of weeks, we can actually provide that business case to make a decision.
That's fantastic. Well, look, I've seen, what you've done across your career, Jason, with different companies. The leadership that you bring to the organization is certainly one that has a history of success. So congrats on the work that you guys are doing. And for everybody with us, make sure you check out the show notes. There you'll have the ways that Jason described on stage with the Trinity team, how they did it. Nearly $100 million in cost optimization. You'll have ways to get in touch with him and the team at Clearsense. And if this resonated with you, make sure you share it with your friends. This is how we pass the word on ways that you too can make a difference in your organization. Thank you all for tuning in. And Jason, thanks for being with us.
Thanks a lot, Saul.